Well, not surprisingly, anything connected to China not doing well. One ETF right now is down over 3% on the virus battle. Concerns on whether China is up to the task. Those iShares China RG Cap Fund is one that's closely sort of a proxy for that market. To King View Asset Management CIO Scott Martin, capitalist, big hedge fund manager Jonathan Honig. Jonathan, is this overdone, or is this a good excuse for many who've locked in some, nice profits to sell?
Well, Neil, when it comes to the Chinese market, I don't think it's overdone at all, specifically because of what China's been doing. They've been engaging in massive intervention, trying to prop up that market really in any way they can, including essentially requiring investors, large investors, to hold stocks, not to even sell them. So just as we saw in 2008 when our own market, our own government tried to prop up stocks, that failed miserably. So my fear is this sell-off, both in China and here in the States, that it really is just the early stages here of what's going to be a bigger, longer-term sell-off. We're certainly due, and this coronavirus is giving people the excuse.
One thing that I do notice, Scott, until Italy came along to say we have a number of cases here and we ourselves are quarantining 10 cities, which was like out of the blue, that scared people. That and the report that the number of cases in South Korea went from virtually, half a handful to 760 plus. All of a sudden, people are saying, well, wait a minute, what's the real deal with this? What do you do as an investor in the middle of something like that?
Yeah, the Italy turn here, Neil, over the weekend seemed to be the one that really pushed this over the edge. And I don't know if it's just because we're worried about not getting enough pasta here in America, but the reality is this. It's definitely spreading, and some of the numbers you mentioned, even with South Korea, are very damning. Now, as an investor, though, and we've talked about this before on the shows, Jonathan has talked about it as well, is this is a time when, as an investor, and you're obviously somewhat, I think, long-term in nature here, but you have other things in your portfolios besides stocks that are tied to China. That includes stuff like gold. It includes things like bonds. And it includes things like cash for rainy days like this, because I do believe Jonathan's right. Things are probably going to get worse, Neil, before they get better. But don't forget, similar to 2008 and early 2009, there were some amazing buying opportunities that came as a result of these panic and fear moves. And I don't think this time is going to be any different.
Gold is obviously jumping today. No surprise, Jonathan Honig. But I mentioned gold a lot in this show. A lot of people think, oh, you're talking about gold too much. But what's been remarkable about gold is that it has been climbing through crises and no crises. And I'm wondering what that's about. Obviously getting a big push on a day like this. But what do you make of that?
Yeah, this is a longer-term trend. That's the way that markets actually tend to work. Not these massive one-day moves, but a longer-term trend. And, gold, as you point out, has been going up basically since the middle part of last year. It's at a 7+ year high today. And, Neil, what's bullish, especially for gold, is when I look at the stock market, almost all of the stocks at 52-week highs are gold stocks. So, again, I think back to the early 2000s, gold went up for a decade, from 2001 to 2012, in effect. I think we're going to see the same type of a long-term move here. And $1,600 an ounce seems expensive now, Neil, but a lot of the precious metals are at all-time highs. Gold could follow suit.
All right, we'll watch it very closely. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much. To show you how widespread